The transfer. The transport ship's hull groaned as it decelerated from FTL, the sound echoing through the prisoner holding bay where Sarah Chen sat in magnetically sealed restraints. After 15 years of distinguished service in Earth's Space Force, she never imagined she'd end up here, being transferred to the notorious Helios Maximum Security Prison Station. The charges: espionage and conspiracy against the Galactic Council. Both false, but that hadn't mattered to the tribunal. The guard approaching her holding cell wasn't human. Few of the prison staff were. The Arthenian's chidness face was unreadable as it activated the cell's force field. "Prisoner Chen, prepare for transfer." Its mandibles clicked with each word, the universal translator making sense of the sounds. Sarah stood slowly, her muscles stiff from the long journey. Even in the artificial gravity, she moved with the fluid grace of someone used to varying gravitational conditions. The guard noticed, mandibles twitching. Like most non-humans, it was probably wondering how someone from a death world like Earth had ended up here. The prison station loomed ahead, a massive structure of dark metal and pulsing force fields spinning slowly in the void. As Sarah was led through processing, she could feel the stares from both guards and inmates. Humans were rare enough in galactic society, but in a prison, that was practically unheard of. Classification: Deathworlder. Species: human. Threat level: elevated. The automated system announced as she passed through various scanners. Each proclamation drew more attention from the gathered aliens. Some backed away instinctively, their species' evolutionary memory recognizing humans as something to be feared. Others moved closer, curious or hostile. It was in the main holding area that Sarah first encountered Kravix. The drachnid was massive, easily 3 meters tall with armored scales and multiple sets of arms. But it wasn't his size that made him dangerous. It was the intelligence in those compound eyes as they fixed on her. A human. Kravix's translator rendered his clicking speech into standard Galactic. "How interesting. We don't get many of your kind here. Too clever to get caught usually." He moved closer, looming over her. "Or too dangerous to take alive." Sarah kept her expression neutral, but her muscles tensed imperceptibly. On Earth, humans were middle of the food chain predators. But to most galactic species, they were walking contradictions. Soft-skinned beings from a planet that should have killed them, who somehow survived and thrived despite everything. It made some aliens nervous. It made others want to prove themselves by challenging a Deathworlder. "I'm not looking for trouble," Sarah said evenly, knowing it probably wouldn't matter. Prison politics were prison politics, regardless of the species involved. Kravix's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "Trouble? No, no trouble. Just making conversation with our new celebrity. It's not often we get to meet someone from such a fascinating world. Tell me, is it true that humans can survive radiation doses that would kill most species? That your bones can repair themselves after breaking? That you pursue your prey until it dies of exhaustion?" Each question carried an undercurrent of threat, but also genuine curiosity. Sarah had encountered this before. The mixture of fear and fascination that many aliens had toward humans. Earth was classified as a death world for good reason. Its high gravity, extreme temperature variations, and abundance of predators should have prevented any sentient species from evolving there. Yet humans had not only survived, but had adapted to become one of the most resilient species in known space. "We're full of surprises," Sarah replied diplomatically, trying to move past him. But Kravix shifted, blocking her path with one of his secondary arms. "Indeed you are, which makes me wonder, what kind of crime brings a human to Helios? What did you do that was so terrible even your resourceful species couldn't find a way out of it?" Before Sarah could respond, a sharp tone signaled the end of the intake period. Guards began directing prisoners to their assigned cells, but Kravix's eyes remained fixed on her as they were separated. "Welcome to Helios, Deathworlder," he called after her. "I look forward to learning just how surprising your species can be." In her cell that night, Sarah lay on the too small bunk, analyzing her situation. She hadn't survived 15 years of space exploration by ignoring her instincts, and right now they were screaming that Kravix was going to be a problem. But he was just one part of a larger puzzle. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to frame her and get her sent here specifically. The evidence against her had been too perfect, the tribunal too quick to convict. She was missing something important, and until she figured out what it was, she needed to survive. Sarah closed her eyes but didn't sleep. Instead, she began mentally reviewing everything she knew about drachnid physiology and behavior patterns. If Kravix was going to test her, she needed to be ready. After all, there was a reason humans were classified as Deathworlders, and it wasn't just because of where they came from. It was because they never stopped adapting, never stopped fighting, and never, ever gave up. The next morning brought the first test of that resilience. As Sarah entered the common area for the designated meal period, she immediately noticed the change in atmosphere. The other prisoners had arranged themselves in clear factions, with Kravix at the center of the largest group. It was a deliberate display of power, meant to isolate and intimidate. But Sarah wasn't the only one watching the display. In the corner, a small group of prisoners seemed to be deliberately avoiding attention. Among them was a Neuraxian, a species known for their analytical minds and photographic memory. The alien caught her eye briefly before looking away, but Sarah filed the interaction away for future reference. In a place like this, potential allies were as important as knowing your enemies. For now, though, she had to focus on survival. Kravix was making his move, and the next few minutes would set the tone for everything that followed. As she moved through the room, Sarah kept her movements casual but precise, her stance relaxed but ready. Let them watch. Let them wonder. After all, humans hadn't just survived on their death world. They had mastered it. And Sarah hadn't survived 15 years in space by being easy prey. Breaking point. 3 weeks into her imprisonment, Sarah had learned the rhythms of Helios Station. The facility ran on standard galactic time, with designated periods for meals, exercise, and what passed for recreation among 2,000 of the galaxy's most dangerous inmates. But beneath the official schedule ran deeper currents, power struggles, alliances, and carefully hidden conspiracies. Kravix hadn't made his move yet, but Sarah could feel it coming. The drachnid had been gathering support, particularly among species that resented humanity's rapid rise in galactic society. Each day brought more subtle provocations, more tests of her patience and resolve. The exercise period became a particular source of tension. The prison's artificial gravity could be adjusted in different sections, and many aliens found it amusing to watch humans struggle in high-G environments. But Sarah had grown up on Earth and trained in variable gravity conditions. Where they expected her to falter, she adapted. Impressive, came a quiet voice beside her as she completed another set of exercises in 2.3 G. The Neuraxian she'd noticed earlier, Viaton according to the prisoner markings, had approached without her noticing. Most species would have collapsed by now. Sarah controlled her breathing carefully, her muscles burning from the enhanced gravity. Earth's gravity varies by location. We learned to adjust early. She studied Viaton carefully. Neuraxians rarely involved themselves in prison politics, preferring to observe and analyze. For one to approach her directly meant something had changed. Indeed. Adaptation, humanity's greatest strength, and perhaps the reason why certain parties find you so concerning. Viaton's multifaceted eyes shifted briefly toward Kravix's group. There are rumors about why you're really here. Dangerous rumors. Before Sarah could press for details, alarms blared throughout the station. The artificial gravity suddenly fluctuated, sending unprepared prisoners stumbling. Emergency lights pulsed as security barriers began activating randomly throughout the exercise yard. This isn't a malfunction, Sarah realized, seeing the calculated pattern in the chaos. This is a riot, Viaton confirmed, already backing away, one that's been carefully planned. I suggest you run, human. Now. The warning came just as Kravix's followers sprang into action. They'd positioned themselves strategically around the yard, cutting off escape routes. The guards were suspiciously absent, either compromised or deliberately staying clear of what was about to happen. Sarah's combat training kicked in as the first attackers reached her. In Earth's gravity, a drachnid's extra limbs and armored hide gave them an overwhelming advantage. But Kravix had made a crucial mistake in staging his attack during high-G exercises. His followers were already fatigued, while Sarah's Deathworlder physiology had been steadily adapting. She ducked under a swing from a Hexterian's barbed tentacle, using its momentum to send it crashing into another attacker. Avrex lunged for her legs, but Sarah had spent years studying alien physiology. She knew exactly where to strike to temporarily paralyze its secondary nervous system. "Is this all you've got?" she called out to Kravix, who watched from the periphery. "I thought you wanted to test a Deathworlder." The taunt was calculated. If she could provoke him into direct confrontation, it would disrupt the coordinated attack he planned. But Kravix was too clever for that. "Oh no, human, this isn't the test. This is just the warm-up." He gestured, and more of his followers emerged from hiding spots around the yard. "We're just getting started." Sarah backed toward one of the security barriers, her mind racing. The riot wasn't random. It was too well orchestrated. Kravix had support from someone with access to the prison systems, someone who wanted her eliminated without it looking suspicious. The same someone, perhaps, who had arranged for her imprisonment in the first place. A plasma burst from a smuggled weapon scorched the wall beside her head. Illegal weapons meant serious planning and outside help. This was bigger than prison politics or Kravix's vendetta against Deathworlders. "Vietan," she shouted, spotting the Neuraxian trying to avoid the chaos. "What do they want? What are those rumors about why I'm here?" The Neuraxian hesitated, caught between self-preservation and something else. Guilt? Fear? "The shipping manifests," Vietan finally called back. "The ones you processed in the Arcturus sector. They weren't routine cargo inspections. You saw something you weren't supposed to see." Memory flashed through Sarah's mind. A routine day at her post, checking manifest after manifest of ships passing through human space. She'd flagged one for irregularities, following standard procedure. The next day, she'd been arrested for espionage. A roar from behind warned her that Kravix had finally tired of watching. Sarah spun to face him, adrenaline flooding her system. On Earth, her ancestors had survived by outlasting stronger predators, by turning their weaknesses into strengths. Time to show these aliens why that made humans so dangerous. "You want to know what makes Deathworlders special?" she asked, settling into a combat stance. "It's not that we're stronger or faster. It's that we never learned when to quit." Kravix charged, all four arms extending with lethal intent. But Sarah had been waiting for this moment, had been analyzing his movement patterns since day one. She had one advantage that most aliens never considered. Humans weren't just adapted to survive on a death world. They were adapted to learn from everything that tried to kill them. And she had learned a lot about how Kravix fought. The next few minutes would change everything in Helios Station. But more importantly, they would lead Sarah closer to understanding why she was really there. Someone had gone to elaborate lengths to silence her, using Kravix's hatred of humans as a weapon. They were about to learn why that was a serious mistake. The truth emerges. The aftermath of the riot left Helios Station in chaos. Sarah sat in the medical bay, ignoring the burn of antiseptic on her wounds as she pieced together what she'd learned. The Neuraxian's words about shipping manifests echoed in her mind, connecting dots she hadn't seen before. Kravix hadn't emerged from their confrontation unscathed. Sarah might not have had his natural armor or extra limbs, but generations of evolution on Earth had given humans something far more valuable: endurance and adaptability. She'd worn him down, using his own strength against him until even his enhanced biology couldn't keep up. Now he was in isolation, his status in the prison hierarchy shattered by a human who refused to break. Prisoner Chen. The medical drone hovered nearby, its sensors scanning her injuries. Internal damage detected. Recommended treatment. Denied. Sarah cut it off. She'd learned early not to trust anything in Helios that could be programmed or compromised. I'll heal on my own. Another uniquely human trait that unnerved other species. Their bodies could repair remarkable amounts of damage given time. Viaton was waiting when she returned to the general population area. The Neuraxians' normally pristine appearance was disheveled, suggesting they'd been involved in more of the riot than they'd let on. You survived. Not surprising, given what I've learned about your species. But now you've made yourself an even bigger target. I was already a target, Sarah countered, sitting across from them. Now tell me what you know about those shipping manifests. What did I really see? Viaton's multifaceted eyes shifted nervously. Have you heard of the Nexus Protocol? Most haven't. It's buried under so many layers of classified information that even mentioning it can be dangerous. Sarah frowned. During her time in Earth's Space Force, she'd heard whispers of something called Nexus, but nothing concrete. What does it have to do with cargo manifests? Everything. Viaton leaned closer, voice dropping. The Galactic Council maintains power through careful control of certain technologies, particularly those related to faster-than-light travel. But there are rumors of something new, something that could change everything. The pieces started falling into place. Sarah remembered the manifest that had caught her attention. The power readings had been off, suggesting shielded cargo. She'd assumed it was routine smuggling. They're developing new FTL technology in secret. Not developing, Viaton corrected. They found something. Something ancient and powerful. And they're terrified that humans might get their hands on it. Why? What makes humans so special? You really don't see it, do you? Viaton's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Look at your species' history. In less than 3 centuries, you went from primitive chemical rockets to matching technologies that took other species millennia to develop. You adapt and innovate at a rate that terrifies the Council. If humans got access to this new technology, we'd change everything. Sarah finished. The Council's fear made sense now. Humans had a proven track record of taking existing technologies and pushing them in new, often unexpected directions. Their greatest strength wasn't just surviving on a death world. It was their ability to look at problems in ways other species never considered. A shadow fell across their table. One of the prison guards, a Zentaran, stood watching them. Interesting conversation, it noted, its crystalline body refracting the harsh prison lighting. Perhaps you'd like to continue it somewhere more private. Sarah tensed, ready for another fight. But Viaton's reaction was unexpected. They seemed almost relieved. Finally, I was wondering when you'd show up. You know this guard? Sarah asked, not relaxing her stance. Not a guard, Viaton explained. Internal affairs. The ones who've been trying to uncover the Council's secret project. The ones who arranged for me to be here, watching you. The Zentaran nodded. We've been investigating the Nexus Protocol for years, but we needed proof. Proof that someone high in the Council was violating our most sacred laws. When you flagged that manifest, Chen, you gave us the opening we needed. Unfortunately, others moved faster than we could. So I was bait. Sarah felt her anger rising, thrown in here to draw out the conspirators. No, Viaton interjected. You were a mistake. Their mistake. They thought sending you here would silence you. Instead, they've given us exactly what we needed. Proof of how far they'll go to hide the truth. The Zentaran's crystalline form shifted colors, a sign of urgency. But now, they know we're onto them. The riot wasn't just Kravix's attempt to eliminate you. It was a message. They're telling us they can reach anywhere, even inside Helios. Sarah absorbed this, her mind already racing ahead to implications and possibilities. If what they were saying was true, she wasn't just fighting for her own survival anymore. She was part of something much bigger, something that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. So what now? She asked, though she was already formulating plans. Humans might not be the strongest or fastest species, but they excelled at something else. turning bad situations to their advantage. The Zentarant's colors shifted again, this time to a deep blue. Now we show them why trying to contain a human was their biggest mistake. Because you're going to help us expose everything. The illegal technology, the corruption, all of it. Sarah smiled, and for the first time since her arrest, it reached her eyes. When do we start? But before either Viaton or the Zentarant could respond, the prison's lights flickered ominously. Something was happening, something big, and Sarah had a feeling that whoever was behind her imprisonment wasn't going to wait quietly while they planned their next move. The game was changing, and the stakes were higher than ever. But that was fine with her. After all, humans thrived on impossible situations. It was what made them so dangerous in the first place. Prison break. The power fluctuations weren't random. Sarah recognized the pattern. Someone was systematically shutting down Helios Station's security systems. Whether it was their allies or their enemies making the first move remained to be seen. We need to move, the Zentarant urged, its crystalline form shifting to a warning red. They're initiating emergency protocols. Soon the entire station will be locked down. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Humans had a particular gift that made them especially dangerous. The ability to improvise, to take seemingly unrelated pieces and form them into something new. Right now, that gift was telling her that this wasn't just a threat. It was an opportunity. The manifests, she said suddenly. Where are they stored? The original copies I flagged. Viaton's antennae twitched. Central database, maximum security section. But with the systems going dark, the security will be weakened. Sarah finished. This isn't just about escaping anymore. We're going to get proof. The Zentarant's colors swirled with concern. The central database is on the other side of the station. We have to cross through multiple security checkpoints, avoid prison guards and inmates, and somehow access a system that's specifically designed to be inaccessible. Sarah smiled. It was the kind of smile that her ancestors might have worn when facing down larger predators on Earth. Not because they were stronger, but because they'd figured out a way to win anyway. Good thing you have a Deathworlder on your side. The first part of their plan relied on something most aliens didn't understand about humans, their ability to function under extreme stress. As alarms blared and chaos erupted through the station, Sarah led her small group through maintenance shafts and secondary corridors. The station's environmental controls were failing, creating pockets of extreme heat, cold, and varying gravity that would incapacitate most species. But humans had evolved on a planet where temperatures could swing wildly within a single day, where gravity varied by location, where adaptation wasn't just an advantage. It was necessary for survival. Sarah pushed through conditions that left even Viaton struggling, her body automatically adjusting to each new challenge. Warning. Environmental systems critical, the station's AI announced. All personnel proceed to designated safety zones. They're hurting everyone, Sarah realized. Trying to contain the situation by forcing prisoners and staff into controlled areas, she turned to her companions. Which means the path to the central database will be clearer. But it wasn't just the environment they had to worry about. As they approached the high-security section, they encountered the first real resistance, a group of guards led by someone Sarah recognized. Kravix had been released from isolation, and the look in his compound eyes suggested he'd been waiting for this moment. I knew you'd try something like this, he growled. Humans never know when to accept defeat. You're right, Sarah agreed, settling into a combat stance. We don't. Want to know why? She didn't wait for an answer. Because on Earth, accepting defeat meant death. We evolved to keep fighting no matter what. What followed was a demonstration of why humans were classified as Deathworlders. Sarah moved with the fluid grace of a predator, each motion economical and precise. She'd studied drachnid biology, knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum effect with minimal energy expenditure. It was another human trait that often surprised aliens, the ability to analyze and exploit weaknesses even in the middle of combat. The Zentarin and Leviathan proved to be capable allies, their own unique abilities complementing Sarah's combat skills. The Zentarin's crystalline form could redirect energy weapons, while Leviathan's perfect memory allowed them to predict and counter standard guard formations. But it was Sarah who broke through their lines, using techniques honed by generations of human martial artists. She turned the guards' superior strength against them, used their expectations of human limitations to surprise them. Each movement was a reminder that humans hadn't just survived on their death world. They'd learned from every threat they'd ever faced. Kravix fell back, his confidence shaken. "What are you?" "I'm human," Sarah replied simply. "We're what happens when a species spends millions of years being neither the strongest nor the weakest. We learn, we adapt, and we never, ever forget our enemies." They fought their way to the central database, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be accessing the files they needed while the station's systems were in chaos. But even as she worked, she could feel something else happening, something bigger than their immediate situation. The truth about the Nexus Protocol wasn't just about illegal technology or council corruption. It was about fear of what would happen when humans got access to technology that could reshape the galaxy. Fear of a species that had gone from primitive rockets to starships in less than 3 centuries. Fear of what humanity might become if given the chance. As Sarah began accessing the database, alarms took on a new urgency. Through the station's windows, she could see ships approaching. Council ships, far more than would be normal for a prison facility. Someone high up was moving to contain the situation. They were running out of time, but Sarah wasn't worried. After all, humans had a long history of doing the impossible when their backs were against the wall. And she was about to show the galaxy exactly why that made them so dangerous. Deathworlders' victory. The council ships hanging in space around Helios Station were meant to be intimidating. Their presence was a statement. There would be no escape, no exposure of carefully hidden truths. But as Sarah worked at the central database terminal, she wasn't thinking about escape. She was thinking about justice. "We've got company," Leviathan warned, their perfect memory allowing them to track multiple security breaches simultaneously. Elite council guards. They're not like the regular prison security. The Zentarin's crystalline form pulsed with urgency. "The files, Chen. Tell me you found them." Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface. Humans hadn't invented this technology, but they'd mastered it in record time. It was what humans did best: take existing tools and push them beyond their intended limits. Almost there. The encryption is adaptive, but so am I. Through the station's windows, more ships were arriving. The council was bringing enough firepower to vaporize the entire station if necessary. They really were terrified of what would happen if the truth got out. "Got it," Sarah exclaimed as the final security layer fell. The manifests were there, along with something else. Detailed information about the Nexus Protocol itself. This isn't just about new FTL technology. They found something in deep space, technology from a civilization that predates the Council itself. Leviathan moved closer, their multifaceted eyes scanning the data. The implications, if this technology were widely available. It would change everything. Sarah finished. The Council's control over FTL travel would be finished. Any species with basic engineering knowledge could. She stopped, understanding flooding through her. That's why they're so afraid of humans getting it. The station shuddered as the first Council ships docked. Elite guards would be boarding, ready to eliminate everyone and everything connected to this discovery. But Sarah was smiling. What could possibly be amusing about this situation? The Zentarin demanded, its color shifting rapidly with stress. They went to all this trouble, framing me, imprisoning me, trying to kill me, because they're afraid of what humans might do with this technology. Sarah's smile widened, but they forgot something important about humans. We don't just adapt technology, we adapt situations. She turned to her allies. "Leviathan, your species can process and transmit data instantaneously, right?" And you, she looked at the Zentarin. Your crystalline form can amplify and redirect energy signals. Both aliens confirmed, beginning to understand her plan. Then let's show the Council why trying to contain this information was their biggest mistake. Sarah's fingers danced across the terminal again, but this time she wasn't just accessing files, she was preparing them for transmission. The station's doors burst open. Elite guards poured in, led by a fully recovered and enraged Kravix. But they were too late. Sarah had already initiated her plan. Viaton's neural network connected directly with the station's communications array, while the Zentarin's crystalline form began to pulse with gathered energy. Sarah had turned them into an impromptu broadcasting station, using their unique biological abilities in ways their species had never considered. "Stop them!" Kravix roared, but his voice was drowned out by the sound of data being transmitted across every frequency, to every corner of inhabited space. The truth about the Nexus Protocol, about the Council's corruption, about everything. All of it streaming out faster than anyone could contain it. The Council ships opened fire, trying to disrupt the transmission. But Sarah had anticipated this too. The Zentarin's crystalline form caught each energy blast and redirected it, amplifying the signal rather than disrupting it. It was the kind of impossible, innovative solution that made humans so dangerous. The ability to turn a seeming defeat into an unexpected victory. In the chaos that followed, as the truth spread across the galaxy and the Council's carefully maintained control began to crumble, Sarah faced down Kravix one final time. "You still don't understand, do you?" she told the Drachnid. The Council was right to be afraid of humans getting this technology. But not because we use it as a weapon. Because we'd do what we always do. We'd share it. We'd improve it. We'd find ways to use it that no one else had considered. The fight that followed was brief but decisive. Kravix had strength and natural weapons, but Sarah had something more important. She had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Each move was a demonstration of human adaptability. Each strike showing why Earth's gravity and dangers had created a species that could never be truly contained. In the end, as Council ships retreated and the truth spread unstoppably across space, Sarah stood victorious. She had done more than just escape or expose a conspiracy. She had demonstrated why humans were truly dangerous, not because they were strongest or fastest, but because they never stopped finding new ways to overcome their limitations. The galaxy would never be the same. The Council's monopoly on FTL technology was broken, their corruption exposed. But more importantly, they had learned a crucial lesson. Trying to contain humans was like trying to contain evolution itself, ultimately futile. As emergency ships arrived to evacuate the station, Sarah looked out at the stars. Humanity's potential had been unleashed, not through superior strength or advanced technology, but through the very traits that had allowed them to survive on their death world: adaptability, innovation, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The Council had feared what humans might become if given access to advanced technology. Now they would learn what humans had known all along. The most dangerous species wasn't the strongest or most advanced. It was the one that never stopped learning, never stopped adapting, and never, ever gave up. That was humanity's true victory, and it was just the beginning.